Yeah. Whatever you want.
Yeah, that's fine.
2:30 you get.
The lady in black time.
Good morning. I will call the Cook County Board of Commissioners regular meeting to order on this day, Tuesday, January 27th at 8:31. We begin our meeting with the pledge. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. At this time, we do have a public comment period. It's an opportunity for citizens to come up and talk with us, different topics they might have. It looks like out in the audience, there would be nobody unless those that are there would like to comment on anything. Okay. And then I'll ask if anybody's received any comments here on the board.
I have, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Right, I have received from Arvis Thompson, and she states, regarding the request for abatement on the Superior National Golf Course, please define what the term County Public Service Enterprise means. And under the term applicant's statement of request on page 78, the sales price of $1.85 million seems to be driving the value of the land. I wonder if the sales price were $2.6 million, would the value of the land then have to be valued at less than 2.6? This document appears to be written first with the sales price as the guide to what the value of the land has to be. Who valued the land at $1.85 million? Was that independently of the sales price or as a result of the sales price? And again, who valued the property at $9.7 million? Is the total acreage of 213.16 acres all golf course? Can you explain why a property valued at $9.7 million should be sold for $1.8 million? Aren't you selling a golf course, or is there no market for golf courses anymore? If this won't be a golf course in the future, what will it be? And then she goes on to have additional comments regarding the Harborview LLC, starting on page 32. Where does the $550,000 come from? Does the HRA have a resource other than the county that it will draw its $300,000 from? And would it be safe to assume the $250,000, the county's portion, would come from county levy? Will the 9 units that are not Section 8 voucher be rented at market rate? And thank you for reading this and providing any clarifications that can be addressed, whether in the conversations today, as you get to these agenda items, or at another opportunity. Sincerely, Arvis Thompson, Colville resident.
Thank you. Anyone else? Usually at this point, we don't have any comment, but the assessor will address this at point number 9. Is that okay? Okay. Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda items. We have claims, and we have minutes from the January 13th meeting. We also have the permit application for a raffle for Cook County Hockey Association, a permit application for a raffle for Trail Center Lodge, One Spirit nonprofit, approve the hire of Nicholas Sheehan as custodian, approve the retirement of Lisa Sorley. And I would just like to say a comment there that we certainly regret. The fact that she's retiring, we've enjoyed her reports, her financials, and of course her humor at the end of her reports. So she did send a letter to Engineer Haas in her retirement. So that is the consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull anything? Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I would pull item B, which is the minutes from the January meeting, just a correction in spelling.
The minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. We can put that later on, is that okay?
Sure, whenever it works.
Okay. All right, so we'll put B around item 10. Anything else?
Item 6, Lake Superior North, one watershed, one plan with plan. I just think it would be an opportunity for a little bit of explanation to the public as to what this plan is, and since we have someone here who's like an encyclopedia, we have a couple of people who really know it, I think, at some point. to
We
have
will be discussing it at item 6.
Oh, this isn't part of our other thing yet.
Yep, okay.
I can't get this all on one screen.
If there isn't anything else, Commissioner Gamble?
And thank you, Madam Chair. A motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item B.
Support.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. At this time, we do have the reappointment and administrative services by Karen Christensen in the Veterans Office, and we are going to have her oath of office at this time. Welcome, Karen, again.
Thank you.
I do swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will be diligent, faithful, and impartial
that I will be diligent, faithful, and impartial
in the performance of the duties
in the performance of the duties
as Veteran Service Officer
as Veteran Service Officer
for the County of Cook
for the County of Cook
in the State of Minnesota,
in the State of Minnesota,
to the best of my judgment and ability,
to the best of my judgment and ability,
and in accordance with the law.
and in accordance with the law.
I make this pledge freely and willingly
I make this pledge freely and willingly
to the veterans of Cook County,
to the veterans of Cook County
for whom I serve.
for whom I serve.
Congratulations and welcome back.
Testing. It's hot. Just need to
Thank you.
talk louder.
There's the crack.
Okay, thank you, Jana.
I think we all appreciated Karen's presentation a few months ago, what she does in her office and all of the things that she's responsible for and all of the people that she serves. So we thank you again. Moving on to item number 5, I'll turn that over to Administrator Treble.
Thank you. So we have Jeff Brand here to present on item number 5. He is going to present about regarding changes to the Harborview LLC grant agreement. So I will turn it over to him. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, everyone. Nice chilly day in Grand Marais. Before you, today you have what we passed as a resolution 26-6 at last week's meeting on the 21st of January. Harborview Apartments in town here, we had entered into an agreement in 2024 for a number of different reasons to kind of help keep those folks in subsidized housing through HUD. And so we supported the $300,000 grant. There was a $250,000 grant through the IRRR as well. And then, of course, $300,000 was from ARPA funds. They're starting to use that funding now. In July of 2025, last July, was a much different weather day than it was today. I was approached by somebody at the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency. They were asking for some additional information to be included in this grant agreement. And so you'll find on page, I think it's page 2 of the, I'm sorry. Yep, page 2. I've got double-sided copies. Under compliance requirements in Article 1 definitions, semicolon exhibits, compliance requirements means that during the compliance period pursuant to Minnesota statute section 273.178 subdivision 1A4. That information had to be included in this grant from Minnesota Housing Finance Agency, and so we included it as well. And the only other change that you'll see in this entire document is in Exhibit B at the end of the document. We just eliminated a little bit of language that was redundant. There were two drafters of this agreement, and sometimes when you have two people writing a document together, redundancies occur. And so those are the only two changes. We want to keep this grant intact. We want to make sure that the funds are being accessed, and they're going to continue to contribute to keeping a subsidized housing in Grand Marais until 2037.
Okay. Thank you on that.
Yeah.
Questions or comments? Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, and thank you, Madam Chair. Given my involvement with Harborview, I recuse myself from voting on this issue.
Thank you on that. Commissioner Sullivan?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the recent changes to the Harborview LLC grant agreement so it can be signed and formalized with the Cook County Recorder's Office.
I'll support.
Madam,
We have- Yes.
Yeah, Jeff, do you, in section 2, letter E, I just noticed when I read through it that the date, the developer expects unavoidable delays. The project will be completed by July 1st, 2025, it says. It used to be 30. I think it's just a typo.
I'm sorry. You said section 2?
Yeah, since Article 2, I'm sorry.
Article 2?
Article 2,
Article 2,
Letter-
section 2-3, letter E.
E, yeah.
So it's
Okay.
page 8, what I'm looking at. I think it's just a typo.
So Exhibit B, you said? Sorry.
Article 2
Article
of,
2. Oh. Here's Article 3.
Exhibit B, but Article 2.
Article 2. Okay.
I
Article
agree.
2,
E.
E.
Yeah.
Developer expects that barring unavoidable delays, the project will be substantially completed by July 1st of 2025. Okay.
Yeah, the original we signed said 2030.
2030.
So I just wondered if that was.
The original said
The
what?
original that we signed said 2030,
2030.
July 1st, 2030.
Yeah, I mean, we should have kept that. That wasn't something that I discussed with our lawyers at Freiberger, to change that date, and so that should still
Yeah.
be the 2030 date. Given especially the fact that we really didn't receive any bills until fall of
Yeah.
2025, which is just, last 3-4
Yeah,
months
I've-
ago.
Yeah, I'm sure it's just a typo.
Yeah, that absolutely has to be a typo. That's not something that we definitely want.
Okay.
Good catch on that. I'll make sure that that's addressed.
So I'd like to amend, Madam Chair, my motion to include the change on item C, or excuse me, E.
2030.
I'll support that amendment.
Any other comments or questions? So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have, we have 4 ayes and 1 abstain. Anything else?
We'll just need to have a signature from the county administrator and then the president of or the chair of the board as well.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to point out, that were it not for this, we would have lost 22 units of affordable housing. So I really appreciate your work on this, and doing everything we can to preserve our housing in the communities. Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks for pointing that out. Yep.
And we've seen some of the bills come through already, and the photos of the, the damage, Section 8 and the rebuild. I mean, I didn't have a visualization of how this really worked and how important it was until I saw all that, so.
Mhm. Yep, and there'll be more bills coming in for things like an upgrade and maintenance to an elevator, provide better access to the people who live there as well. So that's important too.
Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a comment that the 22 that was agreed to in negotiating this contract, that there's actually 26 out of the 31 units that are occupied by subsidy. So it's been good. As I mentioned in the HRA meeting, the one thing in transitioning ownership from Section 8 to subsidy through the enhanced voucher program is that those that go on the waiting list now have to go through the HRA out of Duluth, which is a significant two-year waiting list, whereas previously we could, move people in if we had an opening. But the fact that we have 26 of those available 30 units is accomplishing what set out to do. So, thank you.
As we all think about housing in Grand Marais, that's probably on the list for future housing, senior housing, all of that. You know the list.
Absolutely, I do. Yep, I definitely live that. To Commissioner Gamble's point, the Duluth HRA, who we have agreed to work with in order to kind of produce those folks that live at those units, have been under some challenges financially because of HUD's changes with the July big bill that they passed. Unfortunately, they're now facing a budget shortfall, and there will be a presentation at next month's HRA board meeting to kind of give us an idea of what's really going on with HUD and how it's really affecting us in our county and us in our region as well. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff.
Moving on to item number 6, the Lake Superior North One Watershed, One Work Plan, going to be presented to us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'll wait a minute. I'm going to do a presentation to give you a little bit of background information and bring you up to speed then to fiscal year 2026 so that a lot of you I know is new. So, it's okay. Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you. All right. So the Lake Superior North One Watershed One Plan, as if you remember from the past when I've spoken, the county has 2 comprehensive watershed plans. One is the Rainy River Headwaters, and the other one is the Lake Superior North One Watershed One Plan. Cook County was part of the pilot program back in 2014 for this plan. And so that you know where the region is, this is the area. It was adopted by Cook County, Lake County, Cook SWCD, and Lake SWC in 2017 to replace the local county water plan. And so we have partners now with this larger plan that we share responsibility for this watershed. The focus is voluntary. It's not a regulatory document. So just to make that clear, it's a voluntary document that we all use as folks responsible for helping to manage their natural resources. And it was amended last year in 2024, which this board adopted, the amendments and all of the changes for that. It just, again, for that visual, so those who aren't super familiar, it covers a lot of Cook County, and just a tiny bit is in the Rainy River Headwaters for Cook County, but the Lake Superior North covers a lot of Cook County area. And so the implementation funding, it was allocated to partners who have adopted the plan. Others who don't adopt the plan can also use the resources, the funding. But it was used, or it was allocated through the Clean Water, Land, and Legacy to be able to implement the projects in the plan. Now, these plans are huge. It's not going to cover most of the plan. And when we did our assessment, when we started to do the amendment, we did realize that we've accomplished a lot just through other funding. This just really kind of hit the tip of the iceberg. And so this funding has been allocated so that we can implement the plan and do the projects. Cook County, we are the fiscal agent, the conservation district, so each biennium we're responsible to the state to make sure all the partners are doing their part. We have joint powers agreements, even with folks within the county, and we're responsible to make sure that everything gets taken care of legally. There is a 10% match required with the funding, so all the partners who are bringing projects forward are required to say, I have match or I don't have match, and then if you don't have match, then hopefully somebody else has a lot of match that they can provide so that we're able to hit our goal. So, gonna start at the very beginning in FY '18. We had not as much money there. We only had $387,059. It was a lot then, but it doesn't feel as much now. What we did with those projects is we were able to bring forward some projects with the city of Grand Marais. So over behind Aspen Lodge by the sewer, there was just a pipe going straight into Lake Superior with all the stormwater and no treatment. And so they put in this system where it takes out the sediment and the nutrients, and they're responsible for cleaning it. And they put a little bit of match in, and so that basin went in. And then this village ditch, or Nature Boy Creek, whatever you want to call it, there was an erosion and a sediment loading assessment, because that also drains directly into Lake Superior. It is heavily influenced by development and all of that hillside going into it. And so looking at it and seeing where can we help ensure that we're reducing those nutrients and really keeping it as stable as possible so we're not putting sediment into the lake. We also started what is known as the Coastal Zone Erosion Hazard Map, and then there is always funding taken out each time for grant administration and management, because it's a lot of work in the background to keep track of all of this and work with all of our partners. So that was 2018. If you have questions at any time, please let me know. The next one is FY20, and the reason I don't have the full amount is because my computer got updated and I couldn't access everything late yesterday. And also the other reason is this one got a little fuzzy because we, as I mentioned, we split the money with the counties and with any other partners. Well, this time Lake County came forward and said, we want to do a lot with septic systems. Well, conservation districts, we don't do much with septic systems. Whenever we do some of this, we have to increase our insurance also to make sure, if some of this goes out of our wheelhouse. And so we said we're not going to take on the fiscal responsibility of the counties doing all the septic work. So Cook and Lake County both did work on septic systems. Cook County did a ton of work with inspections and did a phenomenal job. Lake County did a good job. They weren't able to finish all their work. I'm not sure what happened with their funding, but if they ended up or not, because again, that was not my responsibility to track their stuff. But the conservation districts, then they accomplished a 2 harbor stormwater management plan. Again, that administration and management, the coastal zone erosion map kept getting work done on it. A lot of education outreach. We did numerous stormwater practices were installed. Rustic Creek, which is down in the Lake County area, had some sediment reduction done. And then we started working on private forest stewardship, starting to dive into that forestry up here, which is something that we hadn't been able to do before, but with staffing and funding, this is able to start to grow and help landowners. FY 2022, which we're just closing up right now, again, and I have the numbers if you need numbers for breakdown of what all of these are. We did administration again for the grant. City of Silver Bay did a stormwater management plan. We did a lot of coastal and erosion and both inland and on the Big Lake for education outreach. For example, we did an outreach that was hands-on where we planted 500 plugs with a landowner on Devil's Track, and we had a lot of people show up, and then it's been mimicked, and now we keep getting asked, can you do it again? Can you do it again? So we know that these efforts are working and that people are excited and hearing about it and wanting to do that. Lake County did a GIS inventory of delineated wetlands, so they updated their database to be able to help service that better. We updated the entire Lake Superior North 1 Watershed 1 plan with this funding. We continue to work on that erosion mapping project. We did a reduction in sediment nutrient in urban nodes. So some of these grants or projects have other grants that are matching them, but part of our funding went to Little Devil's Track River. There was Skunk Creek, Agate Bay, and Baptism River all had different projects installed on them. So you can see we're stretching those dollars as far as we can. We're up to $600,000 almost, and we're getting a lot more projects in and stretching it. And then we had stormwater projects. So we had a Fifth Avenue stormwater project, village ditch sediment reduction that took place behind the highway department. It was eroding due to the business park had a lot of water coming through underneath the Gunflint Trail, and that culvert was kind of small. Can't upsize the culvert because it needs it, but it's not going to happen. And so what we tried to do is reinforce the ditch going in there so it's not blowing out sediment everywhere. And then Knife River had several projects for sediment reduction. So And then in FY '24, which we're currently working on, and so those projects are, some are done and some are still getting finished. Again, not as many projects, but because the price tags are going up, and the projects sometimes are getting a lot larger. And so we have administration and coordination, watershed conservation practices. So these are cost share projects. So each county or SWCD is allotted a certain amount. For our SWCD, it's $12,000 a year to help people put projects in the ground, and that's all we get. That doesn't really go very far, and so this opportunity allows us to do a lot more projects and a lot larger projects. For example, we were able to help someone with a trout stream put a new culvert in because it really needed it and they couldn't afford it, and so that was an opportunity to do that. Our office has spent all of our FY '24 and allocated FY '26 as of this year, almost, for cost share projects. We have a long list of people waiting, so we're excited to have this extra funding. Again, Little Devil's Track was very expensive, so we pulled money from this to be able to cover that funding. Knife River has a large amount of sediment reduction projects going in, and then the septic system improvement program, so that is with the county. Lake County was doing some projects with that, and so I feel like that might have gotten cut off. Like we're missing a project, so let me double check. Yes, and then there's also the gravel pit map going in for this. Didn't make it on there, so I apologize. So, the county is working with doing the gravel pit inventory. That is coming from this watershed-based implementation funding. And then there's also forestry, and so the forestry is part of that again. And that's to help get forward stewardship plans on the ground and implementation on the ground. So. And then we come to FY '26, and part of the reason also I have to bring this forward as part of the policy committee members, each agency needs to approve the work plan. The policy committee has already discussed it at length, which Commissioner White can talk about if you would have more questions, and then we have to have each board come back and approve this, so before we can fully go forward with the state. So for FY '26 funding, I apologize, I didn't write the number down, but it's also close to the same as 2024, so it's around $1 million, just over. It was a lot of discussions, a lot of meetings to try to figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to prioritize. As I had told another commissioner, our office alone has well over $1 million worth of projects ready to go in the ground. We're just waiting for funding. And we know that the other groups do too. So it is a lot of back and forth. Who's going to give what? How are we going to do this? How do we prioritize? And it's hard, but we work through it and get through it. So we have a lot of funding for plan coordination and management. Again, the price tag is higher, which means we have a lot more responsibility to the state. We're doing prioritized forestry practices still, because there's just a large benefit, especially with the spruce budworm. So trying to get stewardship plans and implementation for those plans. Public engagement, so that's our education and outreach, which we do collaboratively a lot with Lake SWCD. Sediment and reduction and nutrient program, or practices, so that's Linston Creek, that's in Lake County. They're going to be doing a culvert replacement. Skunk Creek, they've got a lot of projects lined up there. They have a total maximum daily load, so that means they have too much sediment going into that creek. The Little Knife River has a turbidity issue also, and so they're going to be working on some restoration there. And the Poplar River, our office will be working with Lutsen Mountains. There's one area where it's really blown out from the 2022 floods. There's also a lot of overland flow, and so we're going to work with them and see what we can do to mitigate some of that and to reinforce some of those banks so it doesn't keep eroding quite so bad. Stormwater mitigation projects, the Knife River Township will be working on updating their plan to incorporate better stormwater practices. And then the development of some other stormwater work is working with, our district has been asked by some housing folks from Hamilton to hopefully help them with some projects outside of their permit. So we don't fund projects that are with permits. We don't fund permit projects. This is them being able to go above and beyond to really put in additional things. And then again, that cost share projects, which I had mentioned earlier for our office, is pretty well spent already. So what I'm here today is to ask for you to approve, this is the allocation funding, this work plan, and you have it before you. I tried to simplify it, but if you want more details, I can provide that today.
Thank you, Elena. It's
Yeah.
amazing, isn't it? All the different things that have happened since 2017, what's going on now.
Right.
I was part of that group working with Lutsen Ski Mountain and also the Poplar River projects, and that was quite a long thing that we got through it, though, you know. So, comments or questions?
Well, one comment, having attended meeting or two, is how cooperative and selfless these different counties and agencies are, is like, we've got, we've got this much money, but we need this much money, so we're gonna have to share. And then to have counties say, well, let's give it to someone else because we can just wait. I find that to be, I mean, it's absolutely amazing because they're actually giving up projects they really want for the good of the water, for the good of the lake shore. So it's
It's a process. Yeah, and we've started our FY '28 already. We're ready for the next biennium between the partners. We just, when we meet in 2026, we know that we can't all work, get our work done. So, okay, so maybe you got a lot more done this biennium. That means this agency gets to have more funding.
And the other part was that when one entity didn't get to spend all their money, I mean, for whatever reason, then they say, well, give it to so-and-so until we're prepared again.
Yep.
So people don't share like that. I think it's very nice.
Commissioner Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation and conversations, just the work that you described, but also all the work that you pour in generating revenue to be able to do things, that is hugely significant. And I think to the community, when you have departments that work as hard as you demonstrate to generate funds to be able to do these things, and it isn't levy dependent, that's tremendous resourcefulness and stewardship. So it's appreciated. Question relative to what is before us here on the $1,043,000. That is funding that is shared with Lake County?
Correct.
And you mentioned earlier in the presentation about the requirement of a 10% match. So of that $1,043,000, then the county would contribute however that is?
Not necessarily the county. So the 1 million is between all four partners, and sometimes we have outside agencies that will come in and say, I really have this big project, can I work with you? But it has to be vetted through the SWCDs or the county first. And then the match we have is on top of that million. So it could be, for example, Lake SWCD is a good example. One of their projects is actually which one is it? An $800,000 project. I believe it's the Knife River, and so they have, a lot of extra match, that $400,000+ of match. And so they could cover everybody's match, so we could come in, like for our project, we'll ask Lutsen for some match. And so everybody comes in trying to bring forward what match they can provide, but being that the grant world has changed drastically within the last year, it's where everybody just supports each other with the match that we can provide.
Yeah. And that partnership, which Commissioner White referred to, we see that with airports, we see that with the highway department, and it's good to see that. There are some institutions that don't think others exist, and that makes it very challenging, but it's neat to see. So thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Sullivan?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the work plan and budget for fiscal year '26 watershed-based implementation funding as approved by the Lake Superior North Watershed Plan Policy Committee at their November 14th, 2025 meeting.
Commissioner White. You're on that committee, aren't you?
Oh, I am. I was just letting somebody else support.
Oh, I
Didn't
figured if
make
you were
any-
on it, you would, but.
No, I mean, it's,
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Elena. Moving on to item number 7. Matt is going to come before us to talk about a motor grader.
Good morning.
with the assistance of Engineer Haas.
That's, yeah, I'm just here
Brought my
to,
assistant today.
that's right. I'm here for moral support.
Yeah, so this item is the authorization to purchase a motor grader, and you might be having a little deja vu because I just came before the board in 2025 for the purchase of a very similar item. However, this one is planned. This is not due to a breakdown. We have a planned purchase in 2026 of another motor grader to replace one of our units, which is 11 years old. And so, yeah, if anybody has any questions, it's a
Commissioner White?
Motor grader as opposed to
A pedal grader.
pedal
Yeah,
grader.
no,
Okay,
Sorry.
it's just a more formal name for grader. Yep. Grades roads, plows snow.
so it has tires.
Yep,
Tires, not
tires.
tracks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is, so we have this on a schedule, and when it comes up and we're looking at it, we're leasing it, so we let it out for bids. Do we do that on a lease? We
Nope.
don't do it on a lease. We do it on a purchase. Aren't we required to?
No, so we buy off a state contract, so those contracts are managed by the state. And so then essentially the vendor has to prove that it was let out for bid, and then that contract was approved by the state, and so we can buy directly from that vendor knowing that we're getting the best price.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. The other question I had is that in the documentation that you provided to us, it shows that this is over a term of 6 years, where that last year just being $1 means nothing, just a transactional issue. But we're looking at allocating roughly $80,000 on this agreement. And our previous pedal grader, that was on how many years?
It's the same, it's a
And
5-year.
and what's the difference between this contract and that contract annually?
About $1,000. I believe the other one's it's like 79,000.
It was.
So it's
That's
very similar.
That's good to hear.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And that will vary year to year based on what our trade-in value is, because that all gets factored in.
And would you say that the transaction that happened in the previous contract compared to this one, that the trade-in value was higher in this one, which makes the two more comparable?
No, so actually there was a significant jump in the price of the unit, because as those contracts get relet at the state level, obviously the price goes up. So the price of this grader is significantly higher, but we did not trade in a grader on that last purchase because we fixed it in-house.
Okay,
And that one is currently what I'll call our spare grader until we can get through this whole cycle of 4 replacements.
okay.
Once we're through that, then we'll be able to sell that one.
All right. Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to authorize the purchase of the motor grader.
Support?
And we have a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate all your digging around into all of the trading and who's on first. Moving on, Engineer Haas.
Yes, so a couple of projects in front of you. The first one is Pine River Bridge replacement. And so if you're familiar with where that is the end of the Arrowhead Trail, literally the very end of our county road, way out there on the east end. We own the bridge that is there. It is ours to replace. As you are aware, we inspect our bridges on different cycles depending the age of the bridge. That one is very much due for replacement, contrary to what I have heard from some people. We have a score on it. I can't remember what it is, but it's an F. And so that means time for replacement. So what's nice is, I'll keep bringing it up, is you remember a few years ago, we put up all those UT signs, town road things, town bridge things. I've talked about that ad nauseum, and I'll do it until I retire. Because that's where all this funding comes from, is that. If we didn't do that, this is 1.8 out of the levy, as opposed to 1.8 from state bridge bonds. Or in this special town bridge, the legislature. So anyways, we ended up with only 2 bidders on the project, 1 complete bid, which was Redstone Construction. You can see it's just under 1.8 million. about 12% over what our estimate was. Every year, we always learn something with our estimates, which is something we'll talk about again in the next project, being that we were quite a bit off in that one. At this point, I'm just convinced I'm going to look at the state average and triple it and say, good. Because we've been going 30 to 40% over state average, and that generally serves us well. But you can see we're even starting to lag behind that. So not to say that pricing is a joke, but I'm running out of ideas on how to get these right. So, and when I talk to my counterparts too across the state, it is kind of a thing where we're the exception. When you get really rural like that, other rural communities deal with those higher prices as well. I'm comfortable with this bid, even though it's technically only one complete bid. We let it on time. There's nothing, I'll say, weird or unique with this project. I just think it's in the middle of nowhere, and there's not a lot of people that come up to do that type of work up here. So, any questions?
Could you just inform the public, why do we have to pay extra? I mean, what are
Oh.
some of the factors
I don't know how
to be
much time-
considered besides lodging and
Sure, the
transportation? and-
socioeconomic realities of living in Cook County, Minnesota. A myriad of things. It depends where they're hauling materials from. It depends where they're based out of. Just trucking. You're at the end of the Arrowhead. You're not just Grand Marais. It's, what is that, 2 more hours beyond? And then on top of being, a lot of times these companies are working out of Duluth. Redstone in particular, I know a lot of times they'll partner with KGM, for example, and so KGM will do the dirt work. They at least have a pit here, but their pit is off the Ball Club Road. So you're almost going from like north central county to the tail end of the county on the east end. So that's my best guess for stuff. Timing-wise, like I said, I'm very happy with, we bid this at an appropriate time. This is normally when we get stuff out for bid. I just think a myriad of things, tariffs, inflation, name it. That's all kind of goes against us up here. So, yeah. 12%, I'll take that.
So then there's that question, there might be change orders, so it might be,
Sure.
go higher.
It could, yeah. There's always unforeseen things on projects, and so it depends. Sometimes, we actually underrun things. That happened on our Tofty Park Road project a little bit. So we have an initial bid based on what we think, based on survey info and what we can collect. But, when you're out in the field, sometimes you don't see a rock, and so that could raise the price. Or actually, it's less material, or we could reuse something, so there's a savings here and there. So we'll see. Like I said, I think with this, there's nothing unique about it. We've done several of these projects just in my time here. But, yeah.
Thanks.
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you state in the documentation in our packet that this comes from county state aid funds.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't impact levy.
Correct.
Directly because it's coming from state aid funds. Does the state have a limit or an oversight at which they think that these bids are not acceptable?
So a flag goes up when it's 10% off, and that is over or under.
Okay.
And so then what that requires is a justification letter from myself on why. And so there's been instances in the past where we have awarded when it has been, it's never under, so higher. But a lot of times, in my opinion, there's always if we're going to award it, there's a good reason. So like timing to me is a great example where, and I'll skip ahead to the multi-use trail for a second just because I think that's a great example of this. We let that project last year very, very late in the season, thinking that, well, we already have people working on the Gunflint, it's right next door, we should still get a good price and be okay. So when we got those bids back and we went, ooh, that is hilariously high, no. And that was where I said, okay, I think timing played a factor in that one. Let's rebid it this year, and do it in our normal schedule, and then hopefully get more bidders, and then say, okay, I think the price is right now. And then that, as we'll talk about shortly, is one of those things where when I have several bidders then saying, here's the price, and I bid it on time, that's just the price. Now what we have here is an instance where I, like I said, have one complete bid. We had 2 bidders total, they just didn't finish. And it's 12% off, so I'm sitting there kind of going, am I comfortable being a skosh over what, kind of the cutoff, the threshold is for a justification letter? I did talk to state aid already, and they are comfortable with that, given the location of the project, not just in the county itself, but just being in Cook County, period.
So that, and when you're talking about the next item, that one was significantly over.
Right.
So that flagged it then that the state had to look, you had to write a
Right.
justification.
Right.
So when you said that in your logic that you applied in having it bid, thinking that it's going to be better, how did that play out?
In the case of the multi-use trail, great,
Yes.
we actually shaved off about $110,000.
All right.
So, to me, that logic was sound. It's just like I was saying before of going, I thought putting 40% on state average was already good. I'm almost not lying when I say I need to start tripling it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's, it's the reality of that. There's instances where we do get savings up here. As you know, like we've started to partner with St. Louis County and Lake County on striping projects. We get below state average then, which is wonderful. That's one of the rare instances I can think of where we get a deal.
Yeah.
But you end up with stuff like this where you're hauling materials to the end of the world, and that costs a lot of money. But I guess that's the price we pay for it. We could abandon the road, but that's a different conversation. So. We're not doing that.
Thanks for the explanation.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you.
Too soon.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to award the contract to Redstone Construction LLC for $1,779,114.30.
Support.
Okay, we have
Yeah.
we have a motion and a second. Commissioner Mills?
We've used Redstone before.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And was that
Extensively.
with the Timber Bridge in Portage?
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so this is it's a tight area.
Mhm.
I don't know how many year-round, well, summer residents, I'm sure there's many up there, but how does the logistics go with that bridge replacement? Same as the
So
others?
same thing, like anytime we do a bridge replacement, so what we'll look at is there a detour route, and that will dictate whether we have a bypass. In this case, there's no detour, so we're gonna have a bypass. So the traffic will be able to flow, just like, any of our other projects. I think I can't remember if the stoplights will be there, or if it's kind of stop and take turns. It depends on sight distance and what you can see. We can also always pivot depending on conditions, where say it does start as a stop and take turns, and if we're running into issues, we can pivot to the timed lights. And then it's that thing like we did on the Gunflint.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's enough traffic, but. hey,
Well, and it's not necessarily quantity of traffic, it's can I see? Can I see
Gotcha.
you
Safety.
coming at me coming at you, that type of thing. And so
Okay.
more often than not, that's what dictates it.
Okay, thank you. Just trying to think about our boundary waters permits.
Right. And that's just south of where we'll be. That parking lot's
Yep.
there, so we shouldn't be in the way. Shouldn't.
I bet
But we bet-
that lot might get some use.
Yes, yeah. So, no, I mean, it's busy. It's construction. It's obviously going to interrupt, some things. But, our job, and I think too, and I've talked with Commissioner White about this in the past, is, we're going to go through this award process. We're going to have our contractor, once we have our pre-construction meeting, and so that'll be a little bit, early spring, late winter. What we'll do is, it'd probably be a good idea, host a town hall up there for folks and just say, hey, also because we have our Arrowhead Trail project going on, Chicago Bay Road project going on, redoing North Road project, or that little chunk, a lot of work happening in the east end. And so I think it's going to behoove us to make a public appearance and say, here's your project inspectors, here's all of our cards, here's what to expect, and just a long summer of construction.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are you thinking about your permit this summer?
Rethinking now, yeah.
Rethinking. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments? Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you. Relative to the timing, the project that was done on the bridge, the culvert, that Devil Track, that seemed to take a long time.
That was a big bridge.
And so anticipating, although the traffic isn't going to be as significant, obviously, But anything that can be done to try to alleviate that inconvenience because of timeline.
Sure.
And how everything gets lined up and whatever, and then try to do it so that you're not inconveniencing.
Right. What's difficult is our construction season falls across the 4th of July, falls across everybody's planned vacations in Minnesota. We all come up north to our cabins. There's no good time. You know what I mean? It's that type of, and so what we do is just try and make it, you know, have a timeline that's appropriate. So structures like this, for example, when we did the one on the North Road in Hoveland a few years ago, about 3 months. And that's kind of what it is for these smaller things like that.
Yeah.
And there's, you know, a lot of it depends too on the crews they send up, you know, and the company that gets it. Redstone is familiar with this area. Aaron, who I work with from Redstone, is wonderful to work with, understands the limitations, and, I mean, understands construction in general. So, you know, I think having a meeting out there on the east end to inform people on what to expect and not to sugarcoat it, and just say, yeah, it's going to be annoying, but there'll be a bypass. People will still be able to get to their cabins, and that type of thing. It's, you know, very similar as well to the project we did up on Cross River, up there. That was 4 years ago at this point in time, I think. But similar thing, where you have access to a lodge, access to cabins, where, you know, we just do our best to communicate with the public and say, here's what to expect, you know, on these days. Our inspectors do a great job on the day-to-day, being out there, you know, meeting the people impacted by this, and, you know, just to get information out. So, you know, I wish I could do it now, but unfortunately, we can't. We're hitting it in the busy season.
Yeah. Madam Chair, as a follow-up, does the state allow financial incentive? In other words,
there's
a lot
incentives and disincentives, and it's kind
like
of
if you can do it within this time,
Yep. that exists, and it's up to us whether we want to include them in the specs or not. Sometimes we do on larger projects, especially if a great example is the Gunflint project we just finished. If the pavement meets certain criteria, smoothness, rideability, quality, there's incentives for that to say, hey, you did it, great, here's an extra $5,000 or something like that. And those are measurable outcomes. And so on the Gunflint, for example, we did get that report and say, yep, you know, it met smoothness criteria, it met quality criteria, and so there was an incentive there for the contractor. You know, that you can do it as far as the time is concerned as well, but I don't want to underscore projects take time. It doesn't matter if you have 50 people on site doing stuff or, you know, a proper crew, you know, I'll just make up a number, 12. At the end of the day, there's a sequence of events that has to happen. It takes so long to drive a pile. It takes so long for concrete to cure. It takes so long to drive to the end of the Arrowhead Trail. And so some of that stuff, you know, is going to play in this where your crew doesn't matter so much as it's just a project,
Yeah.
and they take about 90 days, you know. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Wonderful.
Okay, continue on.
Here we go. So back to the project I just kind of mentioned, and this one was alarming. This is a design we did in-house, which was wonderful to do. We like to keep our staff busy in the winter doing projects like this. And so we had let this one out for bid last year, like I had mentioned. And I believe we got 2 bids, and if I remember, the low bid was like $960,000. But we bid it very, very late. And so we knew that. I thought it would not be like that. You know, that's almost double what our estimate was, and our estimate's already, again, 30 to 40% over state average, on top of looking at previous bid prices. I know, it made me cough too. Looking at, sorry. Looking at old bid prices and trying to, you know, do our best to put an estimate together. So this one was really awesome, though. We got 9 bidders on this. That never happens. 3 at most, you know, 4, I think, when I've seen bigger projects. But to have 9 like this was wonderful. And so, yeah, so the price still came in $840,000, which is way over what our estimate was. But I look at this and I look at things that we've already talked about. Timing. That timing's not going to get any better. And then I just look at the quantity of bidders and go, that's a lot of people, and everybody's saying it costs this much. And these companies also vary in size. The apparent low bidder right now is a very small company. And then you also have your KGMs, your Vites, those are big companies. And so everybody is sitting there saying, we think it costs this much. And so I think it's, again, one of those things where we just have to go back to our estimates and the way we put them together and change it going forward. So all of the funding, though, for this is going to come from, we have $560,000 secured in a combination of state and federal grants. And so, and then to make up the difference, we get municipal state aid money every year. And so we've been accumulating that for the last few years, so that difference is very easily made up here. Shouldn't be any, I don't think there's any impact to the levy on this one. So, any questions?
Why do you think there were so many bidders?
I don't know.
Is it that counties some counties don't have the funding to do it anymore? That they're going, or
Yeah.
everyone wants to be up here in the summertime?
When I kind of look at some of the people that submitted bids, the contractors, some of them are smaller. And so this is a trail. This isn't a box culvert or a bridge or even a road project, 10-foot wide bituminous trail. And so I think some of these smaller companies are able to handle that. They have the equipment where if you're already doing patching work or you're doing driveway work, if you're a utility relocation company, you're going to have all this equipment already to do this work. And so I think that's my best guess.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah.
Continue on.
So, have we worked with this company before?
No. They're out of Duluth.
Okay.
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Make a motion to award SP 016-612-081 and SP 016-615-004 multi-use trail construction to the low bidder, MJ Companies LLC, for $841,020.25.
Support.
We have a motion and a second by Commissioner White.
Oh,
Any further comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you on that.
Thank you. Last thing, related to our entire 2026 and even 2027 a little bit construction schedule. So what we are allowed to do with our state aid funding is, if needed, we can borrow ahead. So we get money from the state every year to perform work on our county state aid system. This is any of the roads numbered 1 through 23. We can expend that money on that. So given the slate of projects that we have next year, and as a reminder, I mentioned all the ones on the east end of the Arrowhead Trail is a bridge. We're resurfacing the Arrowhead Trail itself, upsizing a box at Otis Creek, repaving Chicago Bay Road, little chunk on the North Road, Gunflint 92s, what am I missing? And then the multi-use trail. It's a lot of projects, and we're running right at the line. And so when I talked with Lisa earlier about whether we should borrow ahead, just in case, to the point Commissioner White brought up about change orders, or just to have it, just in case. We thought it would be a good idea to borrow ahead our 2027 allotment, looking ahead at our 10-year transportation plan, and looking ahead to 2027. We don't have any state aid projects that year scheduled. That's not to say we're not doing anything. We're doing 4 bridge replacements. They just aren't on the state aid system. And so those funds won't be needed. If for some reason something is needed, we'll at least already have that money in our possession. So 2027 would be like a catch-up year. We'll already have the funds, and then everything is back on schedule in 2028. Any questions with this? Yes.
Commissioner
is
White?
there any penalty for receiving the funds early? No. Okay.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution for county state aid construction advance.
Support.
Yes, Commissioner?
I don't think, we haven't done this in my memory.
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, it's something, I think what's nice is it allows us to, again, we do our best, and the other thing too is we do our best with our estimates. And so now if those estimates are really, really wrong, well, at least now where we thought we were kind of running out of line with things, well, now we have insurance and we're good. You know what I mean? Obviously, if things come in over what we can afford, then projects are going to have to shift, and that's fine too. And then we'll really have to fine tune how those estimates get put together. But yeah, I don't think we've ever done this before.
And yeah, I was a little hesitant to do it, but hearing your explanation, laying it out, especially 2027, it makes a whole lot of sense to have that security and
Right.
to keep things moving and,
Right.
and to get her done.
And yes, and the other thing I'll add is, it is nice too when we can, when we can do this. So a great example is like a project we're pushing for in 2028 to get the end of the Gunflint Trail paved. That could be a scenario where I come back here and we talk about the same thing. Depending on funding that's secured and whatever, we can actually borrow ahead, I think, 2 years worth. And so then what I would look at and say, it's an opportunity to do a lot of work in a big project. And then we just need to look at our construction schedule and say, well, that's okay to do that. We can catch up over the next 1 or 2 years and still do other, bridge work, culvert replacements, county road work, you name it. But I like that it's an option, that we can if we need to.
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what is given we haven't done this before, so we don't have the experience, if you talk to your peers about it and say if they've did it, any repercussions, whatever, but the question would be, what is the risk?
How so? I guess if we kept borrowing ahead, then we're always behind.
That's right.
Sure.
And so in some cases, and that's where the discipline and the informed decision tempers that, and that's an important element. So as a commissioner, I would say that the way you approach projects, the way you look at funding, the way you evaluate, that builds confidence in supporting your recommendation, asking the questions as to what's the worst-case scenario. And you responded in saying we'd have to realign some of our projects. If our projects, based upon our assessments, we need to do this, and it's going to really cost us significant more if we delay it, then that would potentially be a risk.
Correct.
But back to my statement about not just saying, oh, there's some money here, and we could take that and play with it, as opposed to this is an informed decision that supports this recommendation, that I'm comfortable on that basis, and understanding what the risk is, and we'll see how it plays out, and it might be a future tool in the future. Thank you.
Anything else? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi,
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you all very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you won't see you for a few months. Thank you.
Moving on to item number 8, MIS, going to have a presentation on professional service agreement.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
So today, pardon me, I'm fighting a little bit of a cold here. Today, we have a request to approve a service agreement with Guy Carlson, Registered Land Surveyor, for the completion of the Spring 2024 Public Land Survey System Monument Grant Program, so the PLSS Monument Grant Project. I won't read the whole summary for you, but this is the grant that was written by Wayne Henchy for us, with the support from the Recorder's Office and our GIS, and unfortunately wasn't able to be completed. And so this contract is with, as I mentioned, Guy Carlson to complete that grant. There's remaining work and remaining funds available, and the contract here is just very similar, under the same terms to meet the grant. The grant's been extended to allow for this, and we're looking to utilize these funds and get the remonumentation done with this project, and and close it out. And Kyle, you have anything to add?
I think that kind of sums it up. We're just, yeah, there's remaining money. We're after the deliverable for the benefit of the county, the community. Yeah, these corner monuments are the foundation, the framework for our public land survey system, which, connects all our legal land descriptions. It's important
And
information
just
to capture.
felt like we were fortunate to have somebody who wanted to do this.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. And as stated in the document, there's just under 58,000 left available, 59,000. So it's a good chunk of money that will allow us to complete this project, and it's 64 total corners is the scope of the project, and it's roughly from kind of County Road 60 and Casper's Hill, East 14, and back down Linscoog Road. So from kind of east to west, north to south, Lake Superior to County Road 60 and up Casper's Hill area, Linscoog Road, all the way over to East 14, those corners. And that's included in the attachments of the board. So with that, we'd stand for any questions.
So where are we with having a land surveyor with the passing of Mr. Henshey?
There's been a series of emails to schedule a meeting with the Land Records Committee to talk more on that and how we might best approach that. If that could be possibly a shared position with Highway and their survey needs. Yeah, there's a lot to be revisited there.
Yeah. A lot to discuss still.
Takes time.
Yeah.
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question, the project wasn't completed initially. Is there a duplication of funding as a result of that? How did it affect funding? Or was funding not, like we're not starting over and having to pay?
No, we're not starting over. The grant and the professional service agreement that was in place before and the one that we're proposing now allows for billing as work is completed. And so a certain amount of work had been done. There's a certain amount of funds and work remaining. And Kyle's been in contact with Guy Carlson, who will be doing the contract work, and feels confident that, the amount of remaining funds are appropriate for the amount of work that's remaining. And the contract reads as a not to exceed. So we're looking to finish all the work and just spend the rest of the grant money that's there. And as I mentioned, just close this project out within the extension that we've received from the state for the grant.
Okay. So it's just a continuation of the project with the funds that had
Very
been
much so.
anticipated.
Just a passing of the torch with this project.
Yeah. Thank you.
Keep it moving.
Commissioner Mills?
And I really appreciate the attachment at the end, and those are the corners that need to be, okay. I enjoy the lost corner versus obliterated.
Yeah, and Wayne was able to, I believe, set all the corners. And so kind of what remains is probably a little bit of field work and establishing coordinates for those corners, as well as detailing the whole history that documents the evidence of those corners back from the original land surveys. And that gets recorded in the recorder's office here as a corner certificate. That's kind of what we're looking for, is the ultimate deliverable.
Formalize the work that's been done, and
Yeah.
secure it.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I make a motion to approve the professional service agreement with Guy Carlson, registered land surveyor, for the completion of the spring 2024 public land survey system.
Support.
I have a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments?
I think Wayne would be really happy we're doing this.
He would be, yeah.
Me too.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank
you
you
very
for
much.
bringing that up. All righty, item number 9, assessor golf course value abatement. The only reason I was going like this to you is that when we have public comment, we don't comment on the public comments, so.
Yeah, I kind of figured that. I wasn't sure if we were going to address the questions right up front or during the items, so.
Yep, so you're back and good.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. So, item number 9 is a request from the EDA to do a value abatement of the golf course. So, I can try and address some of the questions that were raised during the public comment about, the document on page 78. That is the request for abatement or the application for a reduction in value. That's an abatement application. Effectively, this came to my attention, somewhere along the discussion of the golf course sale, and what I saw come back as the highest, best offer on the golf course being $1.85 million. I looked at the valuation. In fact, it was brought up by one of the board members of the golf course. And, he said, well, what's the taxes going to be on this property? I'm sure it was part of the discussions and negotiations on landing on a contract price. And, back then, the value, I think, was somewhere in the $5 million range. And last year, there was a significant increase on the Superior National land values. The golf course homes that are adjacent to the golf course, we carved that out as one of our neighborhoods. I'm not sure if the commissioners, most of the commissioners were here when I gave the presentation about how we are getting away from our old land tables, which basically was one value from Lake Superior all the way up to say the organized township of Lutzen. We had what was Timberwood land valuation, and there wasn't any neighborhoods. So you had 5 acres down by Highway 61 or 5 acres up by the grade. It was valued at the same rate. We went through and broke out all the different zoning districts. So R1 is different than commercial, is different than all the FAR 1, 2, and 3. We have multiple different rates in the land table systems. And the golf course falls into one of those really high dollar rates. It's a residential resort commercial, RCR. So that in 2021 was applied, and then also the neighborhood of what we call Superior National. Now we've carved it out to be the Heritage, which is the homes along Superior National and Superior National Golf Courses, 2 different neighborhoods. Under that old, strategy or application of the assessment, it was never reviewed. There's not a property owner that's paying a tax bill on it. It's exempt from taxes. I don't think anybody who's in the management of the golf course or anybody who's been in the position of the EDA director has ever really contemplated what that value is and what it means. But that value that's established back in 2025 would become taxable in 2026 if the golf course closes prior to the end of June. So that would put us in a situation where the new buyer, the owner, would look at that tax bill if nothing was done, and they would say, well, clearly the golf course isn't worth $9 million. There was no offers to support that, and likely would file a tax court petition, which, then we would have to try and defend the $9 million valuation, which was based off of the Superior National homes, the homes along Superior National and how they're being valued. Effectively highest and best use, if you think of it that way. The value on the golf course currently for 2025 is, roughly $41,650 an acre. I know the last couple of lots that sold on the golf course were about $200,000. So, and that's half acre, 3/4 acre lots. So that's just trying to get down to where that 9.7 million number came from. It was never really analyzed on a close examination, and that value doesn't take into account the deed restriction, which that deed restriction does affect the market value to anybody who owns that property, other than the Nelson sisters, because that deed restriction doesn't affect them. So effectively, what we're looking at here is, there were multiple offers on the golf course. The best offer, the one that they're currently working towards a contract, is the 1.85 million. That does include all of the blue sky value. So, you think of like all of your employee manuals, that intangible stuff, your website, your internet, all those things. And then you have the personal property, which includes, anything that's owned by the golf course, equipment that is not considered real property, That's also included in that 1.85 million value. So now we have to look at what are the land and building worth. And I went through and made some adjustments, created a new neighborhood for the golf course, and this is similar to what the value will be in my 26 assessment, but I cannot change the 25 assessment without either an abatement or a tax court stipulated order, or a tax court order by a judge. So that's where the EDA came in and filled out the application for abatement request. This money was not levied in the 2026 levy. The property was exempt, and it was never contemplated to pay any taxes this year. So the third page that I've attached in my item shows the difference between what the taxes would be if unabated, which is $85,647, and what the taxes would be if abated, which is $17,843. Now, that's based off of the market value with the deed restriction and the income potential of the golf course. That income potential really limits what the golf course is worth. Investors obviously want an expected return, and that's where they put the number, is based off of what that potential return is. If, if there was no deed restriction and there was a developer that really wanted to carve up that golf course, they might pay a lot more for it. But at the same time, without the golf course there, is that land as valuable? I mean, certainly it's valuable. It's on the ski hill. It's close to the ski hill, and it's in Lutzen. It's valuable land regardless of the golf course being there. But that would certainly change things for the properties that are currently adjacent to the golf course. So I think I just want to go back and double check that we addressed most of those concerns that were brought up in the public comment. The county public service enterprise, that in my understanding it is something where a fee is charged, and it is not funded through taxation. It's a user fee to provide a public service to the public. The 9.7 million valuation, again, that's kind of looking at it from a highest and best use perspective and valuing it equalized with adjacent land. There's a lot of land here with 213 acres. So when you put it at that 47,000 an acre rate, or 41,000 an acre rate, comes out to that $9 million value. But that's not what it is worth on the open market, given the deed restriction. I think that pretty much addresses all the questions from the public comment. Do any of the commissioners have any questions about this?
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the explanation and following up on the public comment. One question is, is it best practice or normal to evaluate a tax-exempt entity that the county owns and controls at the highest and best value? I mean, why would we do that as opposed to, in the context in which it is owned and operated, making that the encumbrances that come along with that status reflect in the valuation?
Yeah, so the Department of Revenue is always, reminding us that we need to pay attention to exempt properties on the off chance that they do become taxable. Your value has to align with what market is. And you also have to determine, if this property was taxable, what would the classification be? They want you to track that even though it is exempt from property taxes. In the case of the golf course, I'll be honest with you, I was unaware of the deed restriction until the property was being marketed and the discussion was being had that, I actually live on the golf course, and there was a lot of discussion of, what happens to the golf course? Is it going to close? Well, no, there's a deed restriction. It cannot be closed under the deed restrictions that are in place. So once that came to my attention, it was clear that, highest and best use is not applicable to this property. There is an actual legal deed restriction binding the use of that property. It is something that this is an experience that, now I am looking at the Gunflint Hills Golf Course. I'm looking at some of these other exempt entities, and, if you're using, say, like the North House Folk School as an example, that's an exempt entity. Every time they add new construction or update a building, we update our record. We feel like those values are where they're supposed to be, But if there is some hidden deed restriction and there's not a property owner bringing it to my attention, that's where we got to this situation, is that, if that golf course was privately owned and run, they would have brought the value up before it ever got to $9 million, because there's a financial impact.
I'll continue.
Thank you, yeah, just to follow up. So the state made the requirement that for not-for-profit properties like that it should be valued at the best use, which would be nice if PILT would think about that. And so in looking at this, golf courses generally generate significantly less property tax revenue for local governments than if the same land were converted to residential or commercial development. And so because the state is required that we look at the best use scenario, that's why the residential is used, and that's where that is at. Given the realities is that with the encumbrances that are part and parcel with golf courses, that this highest and best use won't apply. The one thing that I would question is that at the price that the golf course sells at, if that price were higher, like the initial asking price, and it came in at the lower price, if that price ended up being a higher price, that tax revenue would be higher based upon the market price. Is that correct?
Yes, Commissioner, so the market value is what we're shooting for. So if the income potential determined that, yes, the golf course could have sold for $2.5 or $3 million, that would be reflected in the assessment. Again, we're typically always looking for highest and best use. That's just statutory market value language, is highest and best use. And in this case, with the deed restriction, we have to deviate from highest and best use and value it as its legal use, what it can legally be used for.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to the public is we've had this golf course, and at the point that we're seeing that its potential will be sold, is that is everything on the up and up, and are we being good stewards of something that we've sunk considerable monies into? Now that we walk away from it, are we, again, being good stewards? And given what we are required to do by the state when it comes to assessing that, even though it's been in the county's ownership through the EDA, we are doing what we're required to do, and so there's no shenanigans or anything that are going on here relative to why the request that comes before us. This isn't something that is an advantage that is being manipulated. This is something that is responding to compliance in normal and best practices relative to a sale of a property like this.
Correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mills, did you have a comment?
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, basically, the EDA should have complained about our valuation long ago because of the deed restrictions.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, if the EDA had reviewed the value every year, like every property tax owner has that statement that comes out, if they had come along and said, well, hey, we don't think this number's right, even though it's exempt and it doesn't matter at the end of the day, there's no money being exchanged, it would have been reviewed. The deed restriction, if that had been brought to my attention. So it's interesting because there is a program in Minnesota called Open Spaces. And so let's say you have a golf course that does not have that deed restriction and it could be developed by a developer. It's happening all the time down in the metro. Their golf courses are being absorbed by developers and turned into subdivisions. Those golf courses they can apply for a special program called Open Spaces. And that effectively values it at its current use and income potential. So the Open Spaces is effectively the same thing as what that deed restriction actually does to this property legally, and allows assessors to tax a golf course at a lower rate. So in that case, you do keep track of the highest and best use value, and you also keep track of the current as use value. And if that golf course sells, they have to pay back 7 years of difference from highest and best use to present use, unless the new owner qualifies and it continues to operate as a golf course. Same thing for the ski hill. They have that same program.
Any further comments or questions?
Just really appreciate the explanation of all this.
Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, I just make a comment to the open spaces that the valuation disparity is, in my research on this, is golf courses are often taxed based on their current limited use, which is current use or open space classification, which undervalues the land compared to its highest and best use, such as residential subdivisions. So,
I'll make a motion to approve the request abatement for the 2025 assessed value of the golf course.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Support.
Any further comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for bringing all us up to date on that.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I will be putting on a AMC Lunch and Learn for the County Board of Appeal and Equalization, so that should be coming up in the next couple of months here.
Nice.
Keep that on your radar.
yeah.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Bob, and just a comment relative to support, that understanding this, we are responding to a compliance requirement that is normal and required by the state. And so, again, I think it's just important, given the discussions relative to the golf course, that the support for it is support for the rule of law in the context in which this applies. So the request is a legitimate request, and it applies to the application as we understand it relative to this golf course and its potential sale. So I support the foundation and the parameters in which this is allowable.
Mhm. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 10, Land Services. We have a presentation by Mitch with help.
So we have Chris O'Brien here. He's the president of the Pincushion Ski and Run Club. I'll just try to keep it brief. I don't have much of a presentation. As you guys may be aware, Chris is intending to apply for an FRTP grant to acquire a new tractor to maintain the trails up there at the Ski and Run Club. And FRTP requires that a local governing body essentially oversee the kind of acquisition and disbursement of those funds. So Chris is just kind of coming to us today seeking fiscal sponsorship for that grant application. Doesn't really entail any sort of commitment from us other than maybe a little staff time. There's a match that is required. They will be responsible for acquiring and, using that match as part of their application. Yeah, so just in the interest of being brief, I'll leave it there if you guys have any questions.
Okay. Questions for Pincushion request? Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, I don't have a question. I would just make a motion to support the fiscal sponsorship for the Pincushion Ski and Run Club to apply for the grant to acquire a new tractor.
Support.
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move on to administrator updates, we need to go back to our consent agenda, which Commissioner Gamble asked item B to be pulled.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. It just, in reviewing the minutes from the January 13th board meeting, on page 16 in our packet, my comments relative to the Northern Counties Land Use Coordinating Board, that the administrator's name, John Ongaro, is spelled O-N-G-A-R-O. O-N-G-A-R-O. And I guess in further comments and things, if a name sounds a little unfamiliar, I should probably spell that out for you. So just wanted to note that.
Got it. Thank you on that.
And then I would make a motion to approve the minutes from the January 13th board meeting as amended.
I support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Okay, moving on to item 11, administrator updates.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a couple of very brief updates. The first one is I've been updating on our construction projects at the LEC and the transfer station, and Just a heads up, not much has happened over the last week and a half because of the weather. But they're hoping that with the warm-up next week, that we're anticipating that they'll be able to move forward with both of those projects. So, or continue to move forward with those projects. I also wanted to mention that we do have a town hall tomorrow regarding SGSDs, and that's from 4 to 5 in this room. So just a reminder to the community that that will be occurring tomorrow. And then we have our board work session on Friday for the commissioners. So just a reminder to all of you that we'll have that in the ITV room on Friday. And that's it for today.
Okay, thank you on that. Commissioner updates, reports, meetings? Commissioner Sullivan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Had an opportunity to attend the Cook County Historical Society meeting recently, and they are very much in the same throes as we are. They're updating their employee handbook, working on strategic planning, and they did want to indicate that they will be providing minutes for us for their meetings. They will be attached to our committee of the whole. So once they are approved, then we will be receiving those. We had an opportunity to meet for the Airport Advisory Commission and are in the process of talking to all those individuals that are on a waiting list for a hangar. We have a list of 9 people, and so we have heard back from 3 of them that they still are wanting to have a hangar, so we need to hear from the other 6 before any decisions are made. And then we've...
Is that how? I thought it wasn't too long ago where we had open hangars. Is that, or am I just misremembering?
It's been about 6 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And the list has been?
And the list has
Wow.
been growing.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So there is an opportunity to build a new hangar, but we want to make sure that we have all the slots or the vast majority of them filled before considering that.
Yeah, well.
But it would be good timing, given the airport master plan, and we do have an opportunity to build a new hangar built into that plan. We've been working with Rowan Watkins and also with the FAA to talk a little bit about the remote-controlled outlet. If you recall, if you've been up to the airport, there's a little tiny building at the base of the airport property, right where Double Track Road intersects with Airport Road. And that is a communication system from airplanes to the airport. The FAA is considering closing those down nationwide, and that does not work for us here because the option is to use cell service, which is very unreliable in Cook County. So I got some good information back from Rowan, and it's really up to providers to get on our towers and for that communication to improve. But the other fact is a lot of older airplanes do not have the equipment required to use cell phones. It's not built into their airplanes. And so we also have older planes coming into our airport that don't have that equipment. I do not believe for a minute we are the only airport in the United States that has that issue. So we are talking to other airports, right now just those in northern Minnesota, to find out their response and why no one has reached out to us about this decision that has apparently been made.
Are we talking about pedal planes?
I'll tell you, something else. Then we had an HRA meeting, and Commissioner Gamble and I both attended, and we had a great presentation from DEED that was provided to us, and of course, discussion about the Harbor View, which was on our agenda earlier. One thing related to the HRA, they are getting ready to launch a new website, so we will let you know when that occurs, but everything will be updated and available for the public in the very near future.
Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, with the HRA and the deed presentation, very informative. The presenter, a gentleman that was very, enjoys what he's doing. He's been there 6 years, and I think it'd be a good presentation for us at some point to give us some context relative to our community and the Northeast region as well. And he was going to follow up on some of the questions that we had presented. And then following up on LEO JET, which is the Job Corps out of Virginia. is one of the committees that I had sat on in my previous tenure and sit on as well now, and determined that I don't see the real connection and benefit to Cook County other than the camaraderie with fellow commissioners from the region and being able to lend voice to the conversation. But a lot of theirs is job training and things that are dealing with the mining and areas that we're not really participating in. I spoke to the administrator this morning and expressed that the decision was that we would no longer participate, which did not indicate that we don't value the work that they do, and that if there's anything that can be communicated to us to be aware of what's going on, or if they would like to bring to attention a time that maybe they would like to have us attend something, that we're certainly willing to do that. I told her I'd follow up with a formal letter thanking them for the opportunity to be able to be part of that board and explaining why the decision, so.
So is there, as far as the joint powers agreement, is there anything we should know, like deed funding or any, I don't know what's mandated,
Yeah, what I would say in that regard is that we could look at the joint powers agreement, and our attorney could make a combination if there's, or a recommendation based upon an assessment of that. I don't believe that, some of the committees that we sit on, we pay a fee to be part of, and in this situation, I don't believe that that's the case. But if there's language in there that would restrict or that requires, mandatory participation, then we would address that. It was not addressed by the administrator when I spoke with her this morning. But
Yeah, I'm just thinking like the CHP, right? We're required to have a CHP, so I was like, well, are we required to participate in that, or that
Yeah,
type of thing?
yeah.
And then, we've had presentations there from DEED, and there's a pretty strong relationship with DEED, and so certainly our EDA can have that connection and, focus.
Yeah.
But I'm just looking.
Well,
trying to look
and
at
I
it.
did express if there's something that I'm not seeing or that we should be aware of, to see the tangible evidence of benefit when we're trying to prioritize and be good stewards of time and resource. And so that was how it was represented. But I appreciate the point.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's Marie, right? She's the director.
It's different now.
It's not Marie.
Well, who I spoke with this morning is maybe the administrator. It says administrator, so it's for a director, but
Okay.
I had said Renee was the director in the 4 years that I served on it previously.
Oh, okay. No.
Yeah,
Yeah, so Marie is I think the new,
yeah.
but what I was gonna say is, I don't know how into the weeds she's gone into with the joint powers agreement, so I don't know how much perspective she'd be able to share about the ins and outs there,
yeah.
but we'll work through it. Okay.
Yeah, but I'll
Thank you
look
for
at it. Yeah,
bringing our attentions there.
yeah.
Anyone else? Meetings? Commissioner White?
There was the Emergency Communications Board meeting last week. It was the annual meeting, and it was essentially organizational. And both of our staff people, Rowan and Jay, sit on a number of committees, and they would be the ones to best explain what those committees do. But they are also, again, they are highly regarded by the room full of people who are speaking in acronyms. So it's very comforting on so many levels, so. And that was the sum total of that meeting.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, I guess just want to bring to the attention of the board that we have our small business development consultant now, Rochelle Christensen, is taking on that role, so that's very exciting. Lot of business experience, a lot of community experience, and has used the services in the past, so has that perspective as well. Had a meeting regarding potential composting in the county with North Shore Waste and Land Services, and prompted from North Shore Waste just looking at opportunities with the building of the transfer station and just the money that's out there to help reduce waste. And Grand Portage was a part of that too. They have a program, and so just trying to brainstorm what could work in the community. And then Library Board talked about capital planning and a lot of concerns around immigration in libraries and the library culture throughout the state. So just talking about that and having the plan in place with the city. And library is a public place, and so all people are welcome in there, including enforcement agencies. And so there's just questions about privacy and data and that sort of thing too. But I think that's all I have to report at this point.
Okay. Commissioner White?
Two little things. I remember when the Patriot Act after 9/11 was implemented, and our then librarian was asked for some information about patrons, and she said no. I thought that was pretty heroic of her to do that, because this is
private.
Yeah, this is private information. You don't need to know what books anybody is checking out. So, and I do have one thing though. This is about the town hall meeting coming up. This is our opportunity, community, to practice some democracy. Come and share and come and have a conversation, civil conversations. And this is not like community comment time. This is where we will have discussions. So come get the facts and meet your neighbors and reach out and touch the county commissioners. See you tomorrow.
And to that point too, this is a town hall meeting is different than open house.
Yes.
Yes, so we're going to have a little presentation, and then people can ask questions or give us their comments, so, yeah. And it starts right at 4 o'clock, so within 5 minutes or so, we'll start the presentation, so they know what they're coming to.
Right.
Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Commissioner White, for bringing that up. I think these opportunities for dialogue is healthy and encouraged, and a lot of the communications that we've been getting as commissioners, we appreciate people taking the time to voice their opinions and ask their questions. This is an opportunity, and some that have expressed that they can't be there, they still want to share their views. This will give context to understand the amount of time that has been invested in this and the questions that have been asked and the context in which this decision is being evaluated. So it's an opportunity for us to hear from individuals, and it's an opportunity for individuals to hear from us relative to the work that we have done on this important issue. So.
Yes.
And I would like to say to the last 3 or 4 people that have emailed me that I'm not blowing you off. I just haven't had a chance to reply since I don't send a form letter to anybody. So when I get home today, I will craft responses to the people with their concerns about the road issue, so.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk generally that, that I agree this is a wonderful opportunity for us to have some discussion around the issue, maybe brainstorm some solutions, maybe look at restrictions that we have legally and areas where we can maybe find more clarity and maybe push the envelope too. But I'm a little concerned about expectations because people are submitting letters as if it's a public hearing, which is not the case. No. And so they're like, let this be put in the official record of our unofficial town hall. I'm just worried about expectations, and I'll try to address that tomorrow. But it's just it appears there have there appears to be a narrative outside of my circle, at least, about the process and where things are at or where we've been. And so I just have concerns about that. It's always helpful to share, the process, like Mr. Gamble was saying, about what work has been done and where we're at and what has not been decided, because nothing has been decided. But, I think there's just, we all can see the attention this is getting, and it's important.
And I believe that inviting people to come to a town hall, there's a lot of, as social media seems to do, misinformation rapidly becomes more distorted as the next message goes along. So there's information or concerns out there that, no, I mean, this is something, Commissioner Sullivan and I sit on the Highway Advisory Board, and even before the new assignments, this discussion has been talked about, and it's been taken very seriously all the time. So, anyway, and the one thing is that in a democracy, just because you are allowed to share your opinions, and we welcome them legitimately, sincerely, it doesn't mean anybody really gets their way. It's a compromise often, so that's how it is. Now I'm done.
Okay.
Promise.
Okay. Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Mills, for bringing that point up. I think that it speaks to the issue that the more that we invite and are inclusive in bringing the public in, and there's been discussion about our public comment period, and it's sort of like we bite our tongue and we sit here and we listen, but we don't necessarily actively listen, and we don't have dialogue. But I think it's important setting that expectation up front, and the distinguish, between a public hearing that is required and a town hall and a focus group and whatever, so that people up front know what expectations are. And the more clear we are on that, the less, hopefully, we mitigate some of the disappointment, well, I thought, kind of thing. This is an opportunity for discussion. And in governance, what it demonstrates is that we are committed to see the evidence of the public voice in our proceedings. So I think that's important.
Okay, so I have a little report here. Last week at our Arrowhead County Association meeting, we had a request for one of the counties to withdraw from the Arrowhead. They said that they were more comfortable going with the Northern Alliance group, and so that doesn't affect anybody's dues, because our dues were due January anyway, so we were just disappointed. I noticed kind of a lack of attendance over the last year, and I did talk to a couple of them at AMC, and they were kind of on the border of not going to participate, but the whole group had to decide that. So that's the first time that happened. So we did ask the secretary to look up, do we have any guidelines about withdrawing and so forth? Back in 1999 to 2008, it wasn't really much other than after withdrawal, if they were going to come back again and ask for application to the association. That was kind of covered that by January 1st, they'd have to make a reapplication if they were going to rejoin again. I don't think they are. I think they're pretty well set.
Which county is it?
Pine.
Pine, oh.
Yeah. ARDC, I think you all received an email about that. Of course, I get a color printed copy because I'm at the meeting. Nothing too new there. NACO, we're coming up with our 10 top things to talk about at their conference, which is later on in February. And that's it. So, we have our correspondence memos, the Cook County sales tax comparison through November. And there being no other new business, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Commissioner Campbell, I got distracted because I got an email that I needed to attend to when you were talking.